Alright guys, Redheaded stepchild. Next phase, which is basically clean up, porting the intake and the exhaust, a little bit on the chamber, a little bit of a radius around that exhaust. If we could take a look at our blue, that looks damn good. I love the angle right by the plug. That's not by accident. And we've got a lot of splatter around. As far as what's happening with the liquid going across the exhaust valve, I probably should have cleaned that exhaust valve. There's probably 2 sets of marks on there. But you can see the way it's set up right now, the way it's coming across. Okay, does it look any different than it did before? I think, you can see in that one corner, it goes all the way to the ceiling, which is what we want to see. You got a little bit on the center of the cylinder side. Not bad. Can't quite see the chamber because the short side radius really hasn't been touched. I mean, it may have had a burr go over it, but it's still really the stock shape. Okay, you can see a couple liquid lines. I did have to put WD-40 on this because I don't want it to flash rust. It is iron, and you know it's right out of the factory. So, but you can see the angle of the blue and some splatters over here. I do think that liquid's a little bit thinner than it was. It's also a new can of Dykem. I'm definitely having trouble spraying the same amount. The other Dykem had a different feel to it, the can, and it was easier to keep it the same. This one really sprays out a lot, so it's trying to do it with less of a spray. As far as our valve, not nearly as much on it as we had last time. Let's see if we got anything on the short side radius like we had last time. Okay, I don't see any blue on the short side radius. You can see the short side has had a light burr going over it just to give it a shape. That we did that on the last test. Just the bowl blend, we did that. It hasn't been touched since then. As a matter of fact, I even forgot to do the floor on the intake. But no big deal. Most of the port is done. But like I said, it's basically a cleanup. Okay? Now, it is true. I know I can do a cleanup and still get some decent gains because I know where the metal usually has to come out. But I did not take much metal out of this. It's still quite tight. The exhaust really isn't changed much, except just instead of just doing a bowl blend, I took some metal out around the sides of the guide more. And I did change the shape of the opening a little bit. Now these come relatively square, and I hate square as far as airflow is concerned. So I make it more of an oval. Basically, I round out the 3 sides. I leave the floor alone. The floor is slow already. So if I make it an oval on the floor, it just kind of gets worse. So might as well just leave it straight. And how wide is it across? 141. It's still very tight. Okay, I did forget to do the floor, so it's still as cast. You could see the crown of the short side just got touched with a burr, but it's still stock width. And the pinch just got rounded a little bit. Now I have to go really careful on the pinch because there's not a lot of metal on that outside wall. The center wall is plenty of metal. We could take more metal out of that if we thought we needed to. But I did a quick calculation on that pinch right now. It should be good for about 276. But when we look at our air speeds, you'll notice how fast it is already. It's actually too fast already. Okay, on the left was our bowl blend numbers. They actually were quite good, right? Better than I would have expected. But then again, completely stock, they were better than I expected. So, this has got a cleanup port. We're going to call that our first cut. Let me put some pluses and minuses in here. Okay. So we got a plus, plus, minus, plus, 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 minus, minus, minus. Right? You wouldn't expect this. Well, That's our short side. After our short side is done, it starts to back up. Okay? I know what to do to fix that, but I don't know how much more I'm going to need out of this. Remember, part of the game plan with this is to keep these ports small and keep our airspeed high because we're on a restricted intake. Okay? We don't want the air to be fast in the intake and then slow in the head. It would be better if it was a little slower in the intake and sped up all the way to the valve seat. Okay. Take a look at our swirl here. This is what we did with our swirl. We got plus, 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 minus, minus, plus, minus, minus, plus, plus, plus. Okay? Once it loses it on the short side, remember, it lost it worse than this side did. So that's why we have extra swirl here. Okay, let's take a look at our airspeeds. Okay, this is what they were. This is what they are. Plus, plus, plus. The pinch is actually too fast already. Okay, and it's only, these are measured at 0.5, and we're, what, 250? 251 and change. As far as our center, plus, plus. Relatively even. Looks pretty good, considering it was just cleaned up. And how did our short side do? Well, it sped up, and sped up. I do not like to see short sides in the 400s. Even if it's a street engine, I would like to get it lower than that. So, I will think about what to do on that. What I think we're going to do is we're going to pull out the other head that hasn't been touched. And we're going to put the nice intake and my ported up stocker and maybe some runners. All I have is my crappy SLPs, which don't help. And I've got, he sent a couple sets of stock runners, but I already have stock runners. We'll see. His are actually very carboned up. And the plenum was really carboned up. But now we have two plenums. We got his plenum and my plenum. They are not the same. So that'll be interesting to look at. We'll take a look at that stuff too. Let's take a look at our exhaust port. Okay, the exhaust port is quite happy. And remember, nothing is polished. This is done with a burr. Okay? Yeah, it's a relatively fine burr, but it's still a rough texture on an exhaust. Lots of guys will crib and say, you know, it has to be polished, blah, blah. Yeah, shut up. Okay, how'd we do? These pluses and minuses are in reference to our last bowl blend. Now, you would think they're going to increase. It's a little bit bigger port. Well, they've increased everywhere. Okay? We've got 188 with a 1.5 pipe. We've got 203.3 with an 1 7/8 pipe. 183.6 is a nice pickup over our 171. Okay? We got a couple nice pickups in here. Take a quick look at them all. And it worked out really well. Like I said, I really like this exhaust port. It's easy to modify and works really well. Okay, exhaust port speeds. This is what we had. This is what we have. Plus equals plus. Plus, plus, minus. We lost some on the floor. It's a good thing I didn't add any area there, right? How'd we do on this side? Plus, plus, plus. How'd we do from side to side? Nice. This side to this side, not too bad. This side to this side, a little fast in the center. As far as all 3 points, yeah, I'd like to bring this up a little bit more. Now, if I change my valve job, these guys will change quite a bit. And like I said, I did say I was going to shrink up that 45 seat a little bit. In reality, we already talked about putting 50-degree seats on these. Give me your opinion on that, guys. How do you feel about 50-degree seats in a high torque application that's only going to see, you know, a max of like 6,000 RPM if we're lucky. If everything works as planned, it'll go to 6. Now, it may flatten out as far as horsepower before that. Probably, I think we're figuring around 52 or 5,300 at best. Our horsepower will max out and then basically flatten out after that because you can't get any more through the TPI. So give me your input on that, guys. I don't have a problem changing this over to 50. I told him we'd put in bigger valves if we thought we needed it. Give me your opinion on that. Do you think this is going to need bigger valves? You have to remember our exhaust port, all right, at 500 is 183.6, and it's just roughed out. I didn't go through the speeds and do my area thing with the speeds, so I know I can get this higher. Not a problem, even with a 1.5. You guys let me know if you really think we need a 1.6 on that. Alright, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night. Just a teaser.